Good evening and welcome to Are We Winning Yet? April 8th edition. Three things we need to talk about tonight. First of all, from the New York City Health Department, there's been some modifications to the data that they've been providing. So they put a little note in there talking about the unusually high increase in cases, hospitalizations, and death on April 6th and 7th. Is due to a lag in report from laboratories and a large transfer of hospitalization data for those who were hospitalized before April 6th. So I know we talked about that yesterday and what a brutal day that was. I mentioned that to you. Now they're finally going ahead and talking about it. The other issue, the second thing, is that they are now publishing a mortality by race and ethnicity, something that wasn't in there before. And the third part that maybe we'll also talk about in the wrap-up is what I call the case for the Kobayashi Maru. So more to follow. Here's the most recent information from the New York City Health Department for 8 April. As I can say, there's the note around the unusually high increase in the 6th and the 7th, but nobody really talked about before. Current cases are currently sitting at a little over 80,000, total hospitalized almost a little over 20,500, and total deaths at 4,260. This is what the website looked like yesterday, with no mention of the unusual numbers or any explanation. So let's go ahead and take a look at the current trends. So if we take the 7 April data, which looks like to be a little bit aberrant, there's about 1,700 data points above the normal average. And if you kind of backfill everything in here, what's kind of obvious to me is that it doesn't look to be a whole lot of change from, say, for example, 26th, 27th, 28th March and what we see today. It's pretty flat. Can't really tell whether it's going up or down anymore because of this aberrant data, but clearly things are still sitting around 1,000 hospitalizations a day. We hear a lot of conversations about flattening the curve and we're stemming the tide and social distancing and the stay-at-home rules are making a difference. And maybe they are for the rest of the country, but when I look at this data, I don't understand that comment at all. Let's go ahead and take a look at the mortality curves. I think what's pretty obvious is that the last 2 days, both the 7th and the 8th, the data is pretty aberrant. As we now know, that's because some data that was dumped into there was actually queued up from some of the earlier times. The predictive cumulative mortality curve is really a function of a 7-day delay from admittance and a 28% mortality. I've gone ahead and take a look at it, and it's really not that far off. I'll go ahead and modify it again, but it looks like 28 to 30% seems to be the spot at which the model is closest predicting the actuals. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the three things we've talked about today. You've got the new numbers, you've got the new issues with the hospitalization and the mortality curve. Third thing we haven't talked about is the Kobayashi Maru. And I think my comment is that you have somebody saying that we've turned the tide in the New York City area and that everything is working. Quite frankly, I don't see the data support that, which leads me to believe that they don't believe it either, is that to a certain extent, this virus is going to take its own case, a little bit like, slipping your hand and getting on a bucking bull and saying that after you're being jerked around for 15, 20, 30 seconds that you won. Quite frankly, nobody won. The bull won. And I think that's maybe what we're seeing here, is that this is going to run its course. And the real purpose of the team was just to try to keep everybody calm while we're running this course. So we'll find out more. Mortality looks like it's going to be about a third of the hospitalizations, probably around 30%. And that's actually the bigger information or the bigger takeaway from this conversation. And tomorrow we can talk about, given that, knowing that, what we're going to predict the mortality from the New York City area should be. And again, like Dr. Fauci says, data trumps models every day. And I think we're getting the data and the model is actually tracking it very well in here. So look forward to talking to you tomorrow.